Welcome back to AP World History. We're looking at Chapter 15, looking at the shift of power from the east to the west. There's going to be a number of factors that catapults the west into a dominant position in the world. The feudal system is going to come to an end. You have stronger central governments, kings and queens are going to command a more centralized government. The soldiers they hire are not going to be tied to this feudal system of you having a certain amount of power because the king gives that to you and the king depends on you to support him. But they'll have trained, hired soldiers to do the king's will. In the Iberian Peninsula, which we talked about, the Muslims are forced out by 1492. European rulers are anxious to acquire wealth and power through exploration. You have to say that one of the driving forces for this dominance of the West is about power and greed, wanting things that make your life better. The Moors, which were the Muslims, are going to be driven back into northern Africa, and this is going to pave the way for some of these European powers to seek some way to get to India or China. Now we know, as we look at this particular map, that the Muslims, are going to control the Middle East, and when they take out the Byzantine Empire, it's going to even put a stronger stranglehold on goods coming out of the Middle East and filtering into Europe. Here, the Reconquista or Quista is driving out the Moors, and you can see down here at the bottom of the Iberian Peninsula, Granada was the last holdout, and then the Moors or the Muslims will be driven out of the Iberian Peninsula. Another thing that certainly helped the West become a dominant power, or the dominant power in the world, is ideas. They absorbed other people's ideas, and they will come up with new technology in terms of navigation and also in warfare that will give them the edge. One of the things that the Europeans ran into was that the goods that they made were not of the same quality as things coming from the Middle East and from Asia. And they had to make up this difference with gold, and there was a certain scarcity of gold within Europe. So the trade routes are threatened by the Ottoman Empire. There is some trade, but it's certainly been reduced. The Europeans, because of their contact during the Crusades, know about the luxurious items that come from India and China and Southeast Asia, and they want their share of it. Venice and Genoa are going to be the first two nations that look to exploration, and they will venture out of the Mediterranean into the Atlantic. You can also say that this Renaissance, which we will look at later, this rebirth in Italy stimulated intellectual growth and curiosity, which then in turn spurs on science, investigating things. As people become more literate and are exploring the world around them, it's almost a domino effect. Just one thing leads to another. And one of the problems they're going to have to do is they're going to have to find an alternate route to Asia. And so they will send out explorers. This shows Venice during the Renaissance, something that might look like. One of the individuals that's really going to push for exploration is Prince Henry the Navigator. He's Portuguese. He will establish a naval academy, train sailors. they will take the latest technology in terms of compass and astrolabes and different navigating aids, and they will explore the western coast of Africa, and they will be looking for a route around Africa to India and to China. And so he's going to be the one that funds this, and he established this navigation school for mariners, so that they can sail out and come back. Certainly some of the ships that they designed were better equipped for sailing the ocean. They will come up with firearms that will give them an edge over the people that they come in contact with. They're throwing spears and they're shooting with firearms. The astrolabe here in 1532, they certainly made better maps. The sextant, trying to figure out where you're at. The compass, all these things are important technological inventions that will give the Portuguese and later the Spaniards and the French and the English an opportunity to go someplace and find your way back. This was a map of the known world in 1492. Contrary to what you have been told, most people at that time did not believe that the world was flat. Of course, there was certainly the unknown, and getting someplace and back was quite difficult. A couple of brothers that are going to jump into this game, they were from Genoa. The Valdi brothers will seek a route to India in 1591. They will sail out of the Mediterranean past the Rock of Gibraltar and never return. Later, Genoa will send sailors, and they will rediscover the Canary Islands. They will sail the Azores in the Atlantic, and they will visit Madeira. So there are some expeditions going on. As terms of the chronology or the things that the Portuguese were doing, they were exploring the west coast of Africa. Bartholomew Dias is going to be able to get to the tip of Africa. Vasco da Gama will sail later to India, Calcutta. Goa will be opened up. Admiral Alfonso del Albuquerque will establish Goa, a trading post there in 1510. Malacca, which is in the Southeast Asia area, Malaysia, in 1511. So they're the ones on the really pushing for exploration. They have a tremendous head start over everyone else. Now the Spanish are going to jump into this because they're not able to sail the west coast of Africa. They will decide that they need to go west. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel will commission Christopher Columbus to seek a route to India by sailing west to the Atlantic Ocean in 1492. And by the way, the secret words for this video are Christopher Columbus. Now, Vasco da Gama will sail for the Portuguese, and he will be the first one to reach India in 1498. Now, in terms of Christopher Columbus, he was from Genoa. He was not Spanish, but he's going to convince the king and queen that he has studied the charts of the winds and believes that he can get to India by sailing west. And he's going to be given 3 ships, and he's going to set out to try to get to India. One of the things that he miscalculated on was that India was about 8,000 miles further than he anticipated. It was fortunate for him that he discovered Hispaniola, which we see right here in 1492. He will make 4 voyages to the New World in search of fame and glory. Now he told that the king and queen that he was there to win converts, but when you look at his voyages and what he was trying to accomplish, it seemed that he was more interested in gold. And on his last voyage, he will find gold, but alas, he will die a broken man. So the Portuguese have a route around Africa, and Spain will establish a new empire in the Americas, and they will eventually take out the Incas and the Aztecs, and they will be a dominant force in Central and South America. Magellan is the first European to circumnavigate the globe. He will sail for Spain. He dies on the voyages. He died in the Philippines. They put him in a keg of rum and preserved the body, and he was later delivered to his homeland where he was buried. In terms of the Polynesians and the Americas, for the most part, they were not part of the international trade initially. You know, when we have East and West, they're pretty much isolated. There are going to be some issues that weaken both the Inca and the Aztec empires, and we looked at that on a previous chapter, and they will become vulnerable to European invasion. One of the things that the Europeans will bring that devastates the Americas and the Polynesians is disease, and which will take out a good share of the population. So in terms of the Polynesian area, the South Seas, this is sort of a sideshow. Here's Mexico surrendering to Cortez, Montezuma. The Incas, Pizarro capturing and killing Atahualpa. And this shows the Polynesian expansion. They came from the Philippine area, from Southeast Asia, and island hopped in this part of the world. This shows the Polynesian migration during the same time that Europeans were exploring, or this is before the Europeans explored, but you can see that over the centuries they will make inroads into this area. One of the areas that will be of interest is the Maoris in New Zealand. By the 18th century, there was about 200,000 people there, and they will be subjugated by Europeans. This shows New Zealand off close to Australia. In terms of other things, we can just say that the Spanish and the Portuguese will lead the way in the conquest of the New World and Africa. And it's because they have new technology and they have funding. And over time, the Europeans will become the dominant powers of Africa, America, and Asia. And we'll stop right there.